A Hollywood parking lot. Night. Steve McQueen. Bruce Lee. A Harley-Davidson clubhouse. Leather vests. Tattooed enforcers. And a man they call Ironhead Jake. A private garage. A door pulled shut. No witnesses. No cameras. And then, in 16 seconds, Bruce Lee allegedly controls a 260-pound convicted killer with nothing but a touch. It sounds like the most incredible Bruce Lee story ever told. So why has no one ever heard of it? No biographer, no journalist, no historian, no photograph, no name, no record. Today, on The Forgotten Path, we expose the truth. A video is circulating on YouTube right now with millions of views. It tells a story unlike anything in Bruce Lee's documented history. According to this viral narration, sometime in the late 1960s, Steve McQueen, a close friend of Bruce Lee, decides to bring him to a Hells Angels clubhouse. No address given, no city, no year, just a nondescript building, a garage door, choppers out front. According to the story, McQueen warns Bruce as they park. These guys are different. They don't care about movies. They respect realness. They knock, a coded knock. A large man answers, tattoos, scars, knuckles that have seen violence. Inside, 15 bikers, leather vests, pool tables, a concrete floor stained with oil, and immediately, suspicion. Because Bruce Lee, Hollywood, Chinese, small, different, is everything these men distrust. Then he appears, Ironhead Jake, 6'4", 260 pounds, the enforcer, the man who, according to this story, took a metal pipe to his skull in a prison riot and kept fighting. Jake challenges Bruce, publicly, in front of the entire club. The garage door is pulled down, 7 men inside, no witnesses outside. Jake throws a full-power right hand, the kind the narrator says that ends bar fights, drops men cold. Bruce intercepts the wrist, redirects. Jake's massive fist finds nothing but air. Jake charges, 260 pounds of prison muscle, and Bruce meets him at an angle, redirects the momentum, and places a single hand on Jake's chest. Light touch, not striking, just contact, proving a point. In a real fight, that touch could have been devastating. Jake stops, steps back, and looks at Bruce, really looks at him for the first time. 16 seconds, it's over. Jake, a man who the story says killed someone in a bar fight, extends his hand. You're real. They spend 2 hours in that garage. Bruce teaches principles. The angels learn. Jake is humbled, but not humiliated. When Bruce dies in 1973, Jake attends the funeral, stands in the back, leaves quietly, tells no one. The story ends with this conclusion. Bruce Lee walked into outlaw territory, passed their test, earned their respect, and honored their code by never speaking about it. That's real. That's authentic. That's the Bruce Lee the world never saw on camera. It is beautifully told. It is emotionally compelling. And it almost certainly never happened. Let's do something this viral video never does. Let's ask for evidence. Claim 1, Ironhead Jake. The story gives us a name, Ironhead Jake, prison riot survivor, 6'4" enforcer, attended Bruce Lee's funeral, respected him until death. So where is Jake? Not in John Little's exhaustive research, not in Matthew Polly's landmark biography, Bruce Lee, A Life, published in 2018 after years of investigative journalism, interviews with Bruce's closest associates, family members, training partners, and Hollywood figures from that exact era. Not in Linda Lee Cadwell's memoir, not in Bruce Lee's own private journals, which survive and have been studied by researchers worldwide. Not in one documented interview with Steve McQueen, who gave many interviews before his death in 1980 and spoke openly about Bruce, where this clubhouse visit is ever mentioned, even casually, even in passing. Ironhead Jake does not exist in any verifiable record anywhere on Earth. Claim 2. Steve McQueen's silence proves it happened. This is a classic myth construction technique. You take a real friendship, and McQueen and Bruce Lee were genuinely close, that part is documented, and you attach an undocumented event to it. Then you explain away the absence of any proof with the convenient logic that everyone involved stayed silent forever. The story literally says, Bruce never told anyone, McQueen never told anyone, 6 witnesses never told anyone, because of a code. Do you see what this does? It makes the absence of evidence into proof of a cover-up. That is not history. That is a conspiracy structure. That is how myths protect themselves from facts. Claim 3. Angels attended Bruce Lee's funeral. Bruce Lee's funeral on July 30th, 1973 in Seattle is one of the most photographed and documented events in martial arts history. McLean attended, James Coburn attended. The pallbearers are known by name. There is no photographic record, no eyewitness account, no journalistic mention of Hell's Angels attending Bruce Lee's funeral, quiet or otherwise. If a group of leather-vested bikers stood in the back of Bruce Lee's funeral in 1973, someone would have noticed, someone would have written it down, someone would have remembered. No one did, because it didn't happen. Claim 4. This story stayed buried for 50 years. Matthew Polly's biography of Bruce Lee took 3 years to research. He interviewed over 100 people. He went to Hong Kong. He went to Oakland, where Bruce Lee actually lived and trained in the 1960s. He tracked down training partners, rivals, students, and Hollywood contacts from that entire era. If there was a credible Hell's Angels encounter anywhere in Bruce Lee's life, any rumor, any second-hand whisper from anyone in that world, Polly would have found a thread to pull. He found nothing, because there was nothing. Now let's talk about the most important thing the viral video gets wrong. Not about the angels, not about Jake, but about Bruce Lee himself. Bruce Lee was not a man who walked into dangerous situations to prove himself to strangers. This is a fundamental misread of who he was. By the late 1960s, Bruce Lee was deeply philosophical. His notebooks, which you can read today, are filled with reflections on ego, restraint, and the danger of fighting for the wrong reasons. He had already had his one documented real fight against Wong Jack Man in 1964, and he was disturbed by it, not proud, not energized, troubled. Linda Lee described Bruce as someone who, after that challenge match, became more private about his abilities, not less. He stopped wanting to prove himself on the street. He wanted to prove martial arts through teaching, through film, through philosophy. The man described in this viral video, who walks into a Hell's Angels clubhouse and performs a controlled demonstration to earn a biker's respect, is not the Bruce Lee of history. It is a character, a myth figure, created for YouTube.
Now, and this is important, let's be clear about something. We are not here to diminish Bruce Lee. We are here to protect his real legacy from exaggeration. Because here is the truth about Bruce Lee's physical abilities, documented, measured, witnessed, and it is remarkable enough without any fabrication whatsoever. Think about this. Bruce Lee stood 5'7". He weighed between 130 and 145 pounds, depending on the period of his life, and his body fat, 5%. medical-level lean, surgical-level focused. Dan Inosanto said Bruce's grip felt unlike anything he had ever encountered. Bob Wall said tracking Bruce's punch was almost impossible. Chuck Norris said Bruce's speed was something he had never seen before in his life. These were not fans leaving comments on the internet. These were trained fighters, professional martial artists, and they were telling the truth. His one-inch punch was demonstrated publicly at the 1964 Long Beach International Karate Championships, on camera, in front of witnesses, documented forever. The physics behind it are real. Hip rotation, chain energy transfer, perfect structural alignment creating maximum force from minimum distance. This is science. This is verified. So, could Bruce Lee intercept a larger man's punch, redirect his momentum, create an opening for a devastating strike? Yes, absolutely yes. The entire philosophy of Jeet Kune Do is built around exactly this. You do not need to match a large man's strength to neutralize his attack. You need timing, you need angle, you need the precise entry point that transforms his power against him. Bruce Lee studied this obsessively. Wing Chun, boxing, fencing, wrestling, always searching for the geometry of combat. How to create maximum effect with minimum force at exactly the right moment. Against a larger, stronger, untrained street fighter relying on raw aggression, Bruce Lee's speed and precision would have created enormous advantages, real advantages, documented advantages. But here is where the viral story breaks. Not just the laws of physics, but the laws of reality itself. The narrative describes a 260-pound man with prison-level fighting experience, someone who is allegedly killed in violence, being completely controlled in 16 seconds using nothing but redirection. Real violence does not work this way. A trained, experienced, violent man who has fought for survival does not freeze after one missed punch. He does not stop after his charge is redirected. Adrenaline, muscle memory, aggression, and survival instinct do not simply pause because a smaller man touched his wrist cleanly. What the story describes reads exactly like a Wing Chun demonstration with a cooperative training partner, not an encounter with a genuine enforcer in a closed garage who has everything to prove in front of his entire club. And that light touch on Jake's chest, proving a point? In reality, a man like the one described would not recognize that a light touch meant he could have been struck. He would feel a light touch and he would escalate. The story is not impossible because Bruce Lee lacked skill. The story is impossible because it describes a Hollywood training drill dressed up as street violence. The real miracle of Bruce Lee was not that he could beat dangerous men in private garages with zero evidence. The real miracle was what he showed us on camera, in public, in demonstrations witnessed by hundreds and documented forever for the world to see. That is what deserves our awe. So, what are we left with? A beautifully narrated, emotionally satisfying story with no name that checks out, no location, no date, no photograph, no biographic mention, no witness who ever went on record, and a convenient explanation, the code of silence, that makes the whole thing impossible to disprove. That is the signature of a myth. Not a rumor, not a misremembered event, a constructed myth, assembled carefully from real pieces. A real friendship between McQueen and Bruce, real martial arts principles, real philosophical depth, real biker culture, all arranged around a fictional center. And you know what makes it dangerous? It is so well told that many viewers walk away believing they have learned something true about Bruce Lee, something hidden, something the mainstream refuses to tell them. But they have not learned about Bruce Lee. They have learned about the character their algorithm wants them to keep watching.
Here is what is real. Bruce Lee spent his life fighting a very different kind of battle than the ones these videos invent for him. He fought for respect in a Hollywood that didn't want to give a leading role to a Chinese man. He fought for the legitimacy of martial arts in a Western culture that dismissed it as exotic spectacle. He fought every single day to understand himself, to strip away ego, to find what was authentic underneath the performance. His journals are not filled with stories of private challenges won. They are filled with doubt, with questions, with the kind of honesty that takes more courage than any fight. Use no way as way. Have no limitation as limitation. Be like water. He wasn't trying to prove he could walk into a biker clubhouse and control a killer. He was trying to understand why we need to prove things at all. That is the Bruce Lee these viral channels will never show you. Because that Bruce Lee is complicated. That Bruce Lee is philosophical. That Bruce Lee asks you to look inward instead of watching someone get dramatically humbled in a garage. That Bruce Lee takes more than 10 minutes to understand. But that's the Bruce Lee who changed the world. Not Ironhead Jake's Bruce Lee, the real one. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside this myth. Even if the story isn't real, the principle it gestures toward is ancient and true. Technique over brute force, adaptation over rigidity, presence over ego. You don't have to be the biggest person in the room. You have to be the most aware. Bruce Lee taught that in his classes, in his films, in his notebooks, in every documented encounter we have real evidence of. He didn't need a garage full of bikers to prove it. History already proved it for him. Now, before you go, I want to ask you something personal. Has anyone ever underestimated you? Looked at your size, your background, your face, and decided you were not worth their respect before you ever opened your mouth? If yes, drop a comment below. Write "Myth Exposed" if this video opened your eyes. Write your story if you want to share it, because this community is built on real stories, not invented ones. And if you want more truth behind the legends, subscribe to The Forgotten Path. Hit the notification bell, because we are not here to sell you myths. We are here to find what is real underneath them. And sometimes the truth is more powerful than any story ever invented.